Hello everybody, this is Joe Krug from Finsweet and welcome to my day one submission for CloneComp. This video is all about custom JavaScript and the counting functions that we set up on this day one clonable. You do not need to understand how this works in full, absolutely. You can even completely pass by this video and still be on the day two track with this day one clonable. I'm doing this video for the people who are interested, who do want to go line by line with the JavaScript, but please, if this is overwhelming, if it's too much for you, don't worry about it. Just ignore this video completely. Let's jump in and first see how this works visually for the user. Then we'll go line by line with the JavaScript. All right, we have our groups of people. We have super happy people, Webflow users, WordPress users, and mean, terrible, evil people. We have the ability to add more people to that group. So if I were to go and add more super happy people, we see that we have an updated number counting here. I can keep adding more and more and more people. If I went to go and add those people to the ship, we are not only counting here, but we're counting on the ship, and it's actually a separate counting system. It all works together, but it's separate. We have our group count, and then we have our total rocket ship count. You'll see that if I add more people, we now have two groups of people. We have our individual counter for the Webflow users and our individual counter for the super happy people. If we were to go and add a new person to the Webflow users, we'll see that number update in the group as well as on the ship. If we're adding more people to the group and those people on the group are on the ship, they're also on the ship. So let's go and add this here. We have 58 and 96. And if I keep going, we will add more people to the ship. Now watch what happens when I get over 100. There's only 100 spots on the ship, remember. So we're not going to be able to take off if we have more than 100. So I'll go and add 99, we still see takeoff, and I will add 100, we still see takeoff, and if I add 101, takeoff is now not clickable. We cannot click through because there's too many people on the ship. Awesome. And yeah, that's a pretty good overview of what's happening visually here. Now let's go into Designer, let's look at some important classes, and then we'll get into the build, into the JavaScript. All right. So an important class here is our list item. When this is clicked, that means we are filtering people onto the ship. That is going to be a trigger to go and update our counting system here on the rocket. So I go and click super happy people. That's going to make a function run to go and make sure that the amount of people on the ship is accurate. Next, we have our person emoji. Person emoji is a class being used that will be used to count. So when we are trying to figure out our count number, notice how it's 0, 0, 0. When we are figuring that out, we're going to count the person emoji. Note that we are not using the person item as our counting mechanism because we have a person item here that does not count as a person. So we have our person emoji. Awesome. Also know that the person emoji is text. This is straight text here, which I thought was quite nice. You can go and update those emojis, do whatever you want with them for day two. All right, let's see, what else do we have important here? We have our person group. That's important because when we go and create our counting system for that group, we need to go and make sure we're counting within our group, not just counting the total amount of person emojis. It's the amount of person emojis within this same group. And then within that same group, we go and display the number over here. All right, I believe that's it. Maybe we'll jump back into Designer, but let's get into page settings inside this JavaScript. All right, we went over the CMS library in the last video, and now we have this next script, quite long, to manage all the counting. It's broken up. I have created a lot of extra space in between everything to show you the different ideas and concepts here. Again, you do not need to understand all of this. This is more of a training, education, sit through, try to figure some things out. Maybe you just find value in getting one little snippet here. Maybe this one snippet can help you do something else or help you do day 2 or a client project or whatever. That's what this is for, general overview. All right, let's first declare and initialize our people saved variable. People saved is the total amount or the counter inside our rocket ship. So the number showing the total people, let me get a little bigger here. Showing the total people is our people saved. We have to first create that as a variable and say, initially it's 0. There's nobody in there, it's nothing. So we're doing that, super important. It's even broken up separately because it's so important. If we were to remove this, literally 0 of the code would work. Okay, let's now get, set, and show the amount of people in each group. For each person group count, we're going to get the amount of items inside the enclosing group. So we have our person group. We are going to find the person emoji, each emoji inside of that group, and get the length, the amount. So we're counting those people emojis inside of a group. We're setting that as a variable. And then we are going to go and put that into our person group count. The person group count is that big giant number. That's the class on that. We didn't go over that, but that's the big counter inside that group. Then we need to have a script, a little function that's going to add additional people to each group. When we go and click that plus, it's going to update that group number. So a person add, that is the class that's on our little plus symbol, the person add plus symbol. When we click that, we are going to get the parent element, the person item, and we are going to store that as a plus button variable. And then the plus button is going to look for the item just before it, clone it, and insert it before itself. That was a lot of steps, but it's actually quite simple. Let me go over this last part again. We have our plus button. That is, let me go and save this. This is our plus button. We have our person add. It's going to go and grab the parent, or it's going to get the previous, this grabs the person. This, let me back up here, sorry. The plus button is going to create a variable of the person item. So that plus button, the person item that's holding that plus button is our plus button variable. And then it is going to clone the item just before it, which has the emoji face. It's going to clone that and insert that right before that plus button. So it is, clicking this is going to add, it's going to copy this and put it right in here. Clicking is going to copy this last one, put it right in between. And every time we click that plus, that same function is going to run for us. Now we need to go and update that group counter. We're going to get the whole person group first. We are going to take that person group, store it as a variable called group. We're going to get the number of items in that group initially. We're going to get the group, find the person emoji, and get the length of that person emoji. And then we will store that in a variable called items count. So we have our group, we have our items count, and now we're going to go to the group, we're going to find that person group count, and we're going to update the text of it with the items count. So we're going into the group, we're finding that big giant number, and we're going to change the text content with our total items counted. And this is going to update that individual group counter. Along with that, we're also going to update our rocket ship count. We're not going to go over this just yet. It's at the bottom of this script. It's a function that is going to update the rocket ship count. And you can see that we are calling our update rocket ship count function multiple times throughout this. Or really just 2, now that I look through this. Yep, we're using it twice. Okay. When there is a change to that number and the people are on the ship, we have to update that too, which is why we are calling that function. On each rocket item click, on the item click, which is the filter button. When that is clicked, we are going to go and run that function. So we run the update rocket ship function when a filter button is clicked. We are also going to update the rocket ship count when we click that plus button, when there is an update to the group counter. Awesome. And then when the clear ship button is clicked, the Finsweet CMS library is going to clear the filters, but it's not clearing our number count. Our number count is managed with this JavaScript. So when we click that clear ship button rocket clear ship, when we click it, we're going to clear the number of items from the rocket count. So we'll take that rocket count class, which we didn't go over. This is the one more in, the rocket count. We are going to go to the rocket count and update the text to 0. We are removing the counter. There's nobody else on the rocket because we just cleared the rocket, so it's 0. All right, now let's get into this juicy update rocket ship count function. I would say this is the more confusing little snippet inside of this script. Again, just follow through. Don't have to understand every step of this. So we are creating a function here called update rocket ship count. It is going to take in the amount of people saved. We are going to loop through the rocket items already inside the ship. So we are going to go and count the amount of filter buttons that have the class move to ship. With CMS library, we're adding move to ship as our add-on class. So if a group is active inside the ship, that means they have this move to class add-on class. So we're searching for that. Anybody that's on the ship has this class combination. And for each of those groups, we're going to get the filter by attribute. So we have a variable of filter by, and that is going to be the items attribute filter by. So our move to ship, our filter button right here. Let's go and check this out. Filter by happy. We are going and taking this attribute, and specifically happy. And let's get back down here. Okay, we're right here. So we have filter by, and each one has its own value, and we're storing each one of those values. Then we're going to use those data attributes to get the person items wrapper with the same attribute. We are going to get the number of items in that person items wrapper and then add it to the total number of people saved. What we're going to do is use a data attribute. This we created ourselves. You can change this if you want, called count with. So people saved is going to be equal or added to the person items wrapper, count with, filter by, find person emoji length. That's a lot. I will break this down visually, showing you how it is working. We are saying, hey, this is filter by happy. This is known as something called happy. This is known as something called Webflow. This is known as something called WordPress. We need to count with happy, count with Webflow, count with WordPress, and count with mean. So we are going to be tying these two values together. We are filtering by mean, counting with mean. Filter by WordPress, count with WordPress. We are tying these values together so that when we go and move this happy person, when we go to update the rocket ship count, we're going to look for the same value, which in this case is happy. So we see happy, we'll go to happy, and then we are going to, back to the code, we are going to set the value of people saved to the rocket count text. So we will go to rocket count, we're going to update the text with people saved. And we will do that for each item with the move to ship. If you're on the ship, we're going to look for that count with data attribute, make sure it's tied to what is actually on the ship, and then add that to the total people saved. And then update the text of the rocket count. It's confusing. I know if you just went through this and were completely confused, do not worry about it again. Just understand what's going on here. Small steps with JavaScript. And then the last part of this script is the if statement. This one is fun. If people saved is more than 0 and people saved is less than 100, we are going to allow the rocket to take off. If it's 0 or if it's 101 or more, we will not let the rocket take off. And we're doing this in a super lightweight way. We're going to remove the class takeoff, remove the class ship can't launch from takeoff. And we're going to do that if it is between 1 and 100. If it is not within 1 to 100, we're going to add the class ship can't launch. So initially, in our build, in this takeoff, we have ship can't launch. Ship can't launch is going to add some visual styles to make it look inactive, and it's also going to add this really nice, handy CSS style of pointer events none. Pointer events none means you can't click it. No matter what I do here, my pointer event is nothing. I cannot click it, so it's unclickable. Now, if I were to go and remove some people from the ship, I'm now within 1 to 100, and in that case, that class is then removed. So all this last part is doing is adding and removing a class based on if we are within 100 or over 100. That's it. That was a full overview of how all of this counting is set up. Please, if you have any questions, ask. If you are confused by this and you want to learn more, you want to get that next step, just let me know. Send me a message. I'll be in the CloneComp Slack. Talk soon. Thanks.